Hello and welcome. I'm Jeffrey Mishlove. Today we are going to explore the urgencies of the soul in the modern workplace. With me is David Whyte, one of America's few full-time poets. David is the author of a number of books, including Where Many Rivers Meet, Fire in the Earth, and The Heart Aroused, Poetry and the Preservation of the Soul in Corporate America. Welcome, David.
It's good to be here.
It's good to be with you. You point out that in our daily life, in the world of work, where we all spend so much time, where most of us do it at least, there's a tendency to constrain our identity to what you have described as the Apollonian part of human nature, the rational, conscious self. And sometimes in so doing we ignore the Dionysian side of ourselves.
Yes, the underground energies which make up human character, but that also make up much of human creativity. And so this exploration is not only good for the human soul right now, and there's a way in which it's good for our organizations too. There's a marvelous crossroads occurring now between the needs of the corporations and institutions, which are all dying on their feet in some ways, at least large ones. The need for more adaptability, creativity on the part of the people, and the historical, traditional needs of individual human beings to live out their destinies according to their creative desires in the world. And there's in some way there's a marvelous meeting point of those places right now, and that's what the book is trying to work with. That's what my work in the corporate world is trying to bring together, to show that there's an actual practical use for poetry right now in understanding often quite difficult phenomena of human creativity and human self-sabotage in the workplace. Yes.
Well, I guess it's ironic because in a sense more and more creativity is being called for in the workplace. It's becoming essential for the survival of businesses in an increasingly global competition, and yet at the same time corporations traditionally have served to stifle the soul. There's been a lot of literature about the man in the gray flannel suit and so on, how individuality itself gets stifled.
Exactly, and this has always been, we join a corporation because it's literally a body, it's a corpus, it comes from the Latin word corpus, to do things which you cannot do alone. And then you find yourself caught between this impersonal world which has been created in order to do very personal things. And suddenly you wonder what your whole life about, even people who your whole life is about in this company. Even people who founded the company in the first place can often find themselves in that place. So you have to look at human creativity, and you have to admit that corporations, when they ask for more creativity, they're quite dumbfounded quite often because they find they cannot legislate it in the workplace. You cannot say, I would like an increase in the creativity quotient this week of 8.5%, please, rising to a plateau of 9 in the following 3 weeks. It just doesn't happen. Why? Because creativity belongs to a kind of sacred, hidden part of a person. It actually belongs to the soul's destiny. It's that part of your pattern that is given free play in the world, whatever world you've chosen, whether it's a work world or family world or wilderness world or whatever world you spend most of your time in, you will try to live out your pattern in it. It just so happens that in the North American workplace especially, we spend so much time in the workplace now, more than we do with our families, more than we do in our churches, more than we do out in the wilds, in the wilderness. And so there's a way in which it had better be more satisfying and more nourishing to the soul than it is now, or we are in very big trouble. But the good news is, as I said earlier, is that there is this convergence of paths, that the very things that corporations are looking for now in human beings, adaptability and creativity, are the very things they have looked for historically. Now, both corporations and individual converge at the same point, to a very fearful point, because one of the reasons we often work for a very large organization is to have a good excuse not to explore our own personal destiny. And one of the reasons corporations like to keep control over people is so that they can't do their own thing. And so here you've got both the corporation and the individual with a longing for something different, but both carry the seeds of self-sabotage along with them.
Self-sabotage.
Yes, that's right.
Well, there's a sense,
Yeah.
I suppose, if you look at the great creative artists, the
Yes.
Oscar Wildes or the Wagners, or especially of the Romantic period, but
Yes.
Not exclusively, you find that they flirt with danger, they flirt
Yes.
with death and self-destruction, and,
Yeah.
and often they succumb to it.
Mm-hmm.
That you've written about the Dionysian, the dark side of the soul is not all, I mean, it's the opposite of this comfortable, secure world
Yes.
that we'd like to think our corporations provide us with.
Yes. Well, there are 2 points to that. One is that we have images of artists which are images which help to keep us safe from our own artistry. And so whenever we're asked to do anything creative ourselves, we'll say, wait a minute, look what happened to Dylan Thomas. You know, if I follow the life of the artist, this is what happens to Dylan. You know, Dylan Thomas died of alcoholism and all,
Yes.
all the rest and this person and that person. These fiery kind of meteoric crashes to earth that you see from artists throughout time. But if you actually look at throughout history at the number of artists, there were also an enormously there's an enormous number of very sane people who were also great artists and who had families and who led their lives. And our tragedy has been that we choose between these two sides. We choose between the artist because of the danger that we feel there, and we choose between the person who keeps his nose clean or her nose clean and works and just keeps their head down and makes the car payments and gets the kids off to school. And but really we don't have a choice between those two. Human beings have always lived out their lives between these two poles. There's a marvelous poem by Rilke, it's a translation by Robert Bly, where he says, I am the rest between two notes that are somehow always in discord. I am the rest between two notes that are somehow always in discord, because death's note wants to climb over, and in the dark interval, reconciled, they stay there trembling, and the song goes on beautiful. He starts that poem actually by saying, my life is not this steeply sloping hour in which you see me hurrying. My life is not this steeply sloping hour in which you see me hurrying. Much stands behind me. I stand before it like a tree. I am only one of many mouths, and at that, the one that would be still the soonest. I am the rest between two notes that are somehow always in discord, because death's note wants to climb over, and in the dark interval reconciled, they stay there trembling, and the song goes on beautiful.
I like that last line. It's even in the midst of this discord, or perhaps because of the discord, there's great beauty. I guess it depends on the focus.
Yeah, well, Rilke's saying we're always wanting to be the notes, you see. And so we allow for no space between the notes that gives the music its power. And so our lives get crammed together until the notes are so crammed together that our life represents a kind of 60-cycle hum, like an old rusty refrigerator, which you only really notice when it switches itself off.
Well, there's so many aspects of modern life that seem discordant. The rush on the freeways,
That's
and the
right.
deterioration of our cities and our infrastructure, and the decay around us in the environment and the pollution.
Yes.
And yet, in the middle of all of this, there's something awesome, awesomely beautiful.
Yes, I mean, life has always been difficult. It's now collectively difficult across the whole planet. And, you know, we've been worried about nuclear Armageddon for the last 20 years. It's just passed away the last few years. But in some ways, in many third world cities, that Armageddon has already arrived and is already there. And I think we all realize in some ways that the game is up as far as our delusions about how you can live your lives ignoring larger pictures, because the larger picture is there for us, facing us all the time. And this is exactly what's happening in the corporate world now. There's a tremendous thirst. You can go into any company, it doesn't matter who it is. It can be AT&T, it can be Ford Motor Company, it can be Stanford University, any organization. People are desperate and they're dying on their feet in a way, and they want to know what happened to their lives, and how they can move into something that's more satisfying and more real and more alive above all, more alive. And this is where poetry is enormously successful. Because when you're talking about a subject with a room full of engineers, say Bell Labs or something, usually in a room, if you try and talk about very precious experiences, the more you talk about them, the further they go away. But with poetry, which is actually not about a subject, not about a quality or an experience, but is the experience itself, you can actually create that experience in the room, you see. And so you can say, look, okay, your organization and you yourselves as work teams are asking to change. You're asking for creative change. This is not new. Human beings have been asking themselves this question for thousands of years, for millennia. Many of them have been good poets and have left poems that have outlived them. They're immortal poems. And they're immortal because they speak to every human being in every generation. So here are some of the steps along the path. And the amazing thing is that the steps are very precise.
Mm-hmm.
If you want to start on the path, for instance, you say, what does it really mean to have really radical change in an organization? Then you can recite Dante's line from the beginning of the Commedia, which is nel mezzo del cammin di nostra vita mi retrovai per una scura selva. In the middle of the road of my life, I awoke in a dark wood where the true way was wholly lost. In the middle of the road of my life, I awoke in a dark wood where the true way was wholly lost. How do you know that you're on your path? Because it disappears. That's how you know. How do you know that you're really doing something radical? Because you can't see where you're going. That's how you know. But everything you have lent on for your identity has gone.
Mm-hmm.
And so you are going to enter the black contemplative splendors of self-doubt at the same time as you're setting out on this radical new path. And then, you see, if you can put this across, people suddenly say, wow, amazing. Mm-hmm. That's my life. There's something astonishing about my...
You're suggesting that Dante provides a roadmap for us in some sense.
It certainly does, yes, in many stages of the way. I mean, the Commedia, it was called the Divine Commedia because it is absolutely an astonishing roadmap of life.
Mm-hmm.
But many other poets have left footprints in the snow that you can follow.
Uh-huh. I know one book of poetry describes it as the poets as the technicians of the sacred.
Yes, that's right, that's right. And for instance, that first stage of entering the dark wood, there's a marvelous poem by David Whyte, as the chair of poetry at the University of Washington, with a poem called Lost. And it's a teaching story from the Northwest Indian teaching tradition. It was a story that would be told to a young boy or girl that would ask the question, what do I do when I'm lost in the forest? Mm-hmm. See, this was a life or death question in the climax cedar forests of the Northwest. Mm-hmm. 150 foot high. You walk into them just 100 yards, you can't see any of the four cardinal directions. Mm-hmm. So you need to know how you know where you are. Well, but this is an equally true question for a middle manager in an organization, in a large organization, or for a street kid in Philadelphia. What do I do when I'm lost in the city? What do I do when I'm lost in the organization? Here's the answer that the elder gives. You can feel from this how precise the teaching is. You know, we often feel we're not going to go into these areas of the psyche because it's all wet and woolly in there, and besides you need to hold the hand of a trained psychologist or because of lawsuits, whatever. But actually poetry shows how incredibly mm-hmm. precise it is in there. Mm-hmm. And that there's an equally clear bottom line, but the rules are very different. And the rules are much more movable, mm-hmm. and the whole world is much more dynamic. And this is what the elder is telling to this young boy or girl who asks the question, what do I do when I'm lost in the forest? The elder says, stand still. The trees ahead and bushes beside you are not lost. Stand still. What do I do when I'm lost in the forest? Stand still. The trees ahead and bushes beside you are not lost. Wherever you are is called here, and you must treat it as a powerful stranger, must ask permission to know it and be known. Listen, the forest breathes. It whispers, I have made this place around you. If you leave it, you may come back again, saying, here. No two trees are the same to raven. No two branches are the same to wren. If what a tree or a branch does is lost on you, then you are surely lost. Stand still. The forest knows where you are. The forest knows where you are. Stand still. The forest knows where you are. You must let it find you. You must let it find you. See, what's astonishing about that poem is you can say there are three things in this poem, you see, that are absolutely clear. First of all, the elder says, you cannot sleepwalk your way into your destiny. You must wake up and pay attention. Stand still. You know, the trees ahead and bushes beside you are not lost. You must pay attention. That means paying attention to the shadows of your existence too. You must pay attention to everything you've given away in order to make yourself safe in your position at work. All the games you play in order to remain safe and untouched, as well as your creative gifts too. You must pay attention to those also. Second stage is that in this teaching from the elder is this incredible feeling of silence. That unless you have this silence in your life, and you feel the silence in the poem, where he says, if you leave it, you may come back again saying, here, no two trees are the same to raven, no two branches are the same to wren. If what a tree or a branch does is lost on you, then you are surely lost. You feel the silence there? Mm-hmm. You're almost under that cedar canopy there. And I think what the elder is saying there is that if you pay real attention, unless you have silence, an ability for silence in your body to do that, then you will get too frightened, because all the voices inside you will drown out any real change. Mm-hmm. You have 100 reasons not to make any real change, you see. And you've got all the voices and all the reasons not to do it. And so the ability for profound silence is being called on here. And then that attention can flower into something else. Because you really don't know what your grief is. If you do feel grief about your workplace, you really don't know what's underneath that grief until you fall into it.
Mm-hmm. The poem seems to be attempting to awaken a kind of intuitive sense.
That's right. And then this amazing last line, the forest knows where you are. You must let it find you. Yeah. This is astonishing because, in the Zen tradition they say, if you go out and confirm the 10,000 things, this is delusion. If you go out and confirm the 10,000 things, this is delusion. If the 10,000 things come and confirm you, this is enlightenment. Oh. See, the Salish elders in the Northwest were saying the same thing. Mm-hmm. The forest knows where you are, you must let it find you.
It's the idea of interconnectedness, I think.
Yes, and it's also the physical experience of it too. I had this, I worked as a naturalist in the Galapagos Islands.
Yes.
My degree was actually marine zoology. And what I discovered after weeks and months and over a year there were because I got to spend every day in a kind of contemplative, attentive state to these incredible wild creatures that were there. I cultivated this ability to enter this profound world between the human and the natural world. And what I found was that there's the stage where it happened was where you were paying attention to the world. And at a certain point, that attention opened up into this tremendous silence. And then you passed over a threshold and suddenly you realized the attention was coming back to you. Mm-hmm.
It sounds like what we might call animism. The world itself is alive. Even the rocks.
Well, yes. I mean, animism is, I think we're getting beyond a lot of these labels, because animism triggers a lot of fear in many people.
Superstition, etc.
Yes, I wouldn't call it animism. I'd call it a very natural human experience when you leave yourself alone long enough to have a profound silent experience of the world, that everything comes alive. And the amazing thing is at the point at which your attention is deep enough, it's what is historically being called praise, your ability to really praise the world. And then you suddenly realize the world is praising you back. But the frightening thing is that it's praising someone who much larger than the person who began the whole process. Mm-hmm. It's actually praising a much larger identity. And so that part of you that gets to that threshold literally feels as if it's going to die. Mm-hmm. And it gets tremendously frightened.
Yes.
And its intuition is correct. it is going to die. And in a way, there's nothing you can say to it that will be comforting at that point. You can only, in a way, put your arm around it or be present to that part of you.
To be present.
Yeah, well, this is, this is a mystical, timeless kind of mystical contemplative experience. But it's exactly the experience we have in the workplace every day when we're asked to enlarge our identity. Okay, last year you were Salesman of the Year. Last year we had a system whereby the Salesman of the Year got a trip to Hawaii. And you did it last year, marvelous. But now we've changed to teams because the costs of having everyone at each other's throats in order to win that trip are just too much for the company. We're dying in all kinds of other ways, and we can't form teams because of it. Therefore, we want to move to teams. And then suddenly, what happens to my trip to Hawaii? Especially if my identity depended upon my winning, you see. Instead of a creative solution and approach and a creative life every day lived at some kind of edge which is satisfying to my pattern, I'd let all the river of my experience run into this little reservoir called Top Salesman of the Year, you see. And so I'm living in this tiny, tiny little living space when the soul, is so much larger. And the soul has much more to do with everyday experience as I meet it. You know what I mean? Yeah.
I'd like to go back to your discussion of Dante.
Yes.
You wrote about, in the beginning of his great poem, Dante wanted to go directly to heaven.
Yeah.
And he discovered that he wouldn't be allowed to do that. He had to pass through hell first.
That's right. He tried to go straight up the hill, and there was the lion, the leopard, and the wolf waiting for him, which represented kind of disowned parts of himself, ready to eat him up if he tried any such thing. And, the descent to hell, though, is really a metaphor for the descent through the body. Not that the body is hell, though it can be at times, but that it can feel like hell to live in your body, to really live fully in your body. Because as we grow older, we tend to actually almost absent ourselves from the body, because just the very process of living entails so much grief and pain. Even the most cosseted childhood has tremendous grief and pain. And unless you have elders that say to you, the grief is fine, the pain is fine, the main thing is living, you see. Like crazy horses, elders would tell him every day is a good day to die, you see. And when they said that, they meant it. It wasn't an abstract, every day is a good day to die. It wasn't a slogan. They were looking him in the eyes and saying that. Well, you see, what we're mostly told is today is a good day to take out an IRA account. Today is a good day to make provision for the future. Today is a good day to settle your career. Today, now those are all marvelous things, but they do not answer the soul's call to be alive in the world. And in fact, they become astonishing excuses for us not to live out our destinies.
Well, there is a sense, from what I hear you saying, that corporate America, and I suppose corporations around the world, are entertaining the idea that these once forbidden subjects can and even must be subject to discussion in the workplace.
Well, there's something real about it. I like working in the corporate world because you are not preaching to the converted. You have to be useful to them. If you're not, you're out of there, or you're not invited back. And I like the practicality of that world. The only reason the organizations and corporations are exploring these worlds is because they have to. If they could do it without it, they would gladly do it without doing it. It's too, it causes too much grief, it causes so much, but they have to. If they really want creative, alive work teams who are have a possibility to evolve around objects, and fly around objects, then you have to have live human beings. And you have to have people who know something about their shadow sides too. Because as soon as you come to a scary little corner, you're going to run and hide and say, wait a minute, just pay me my $15 an hour, or just pay me my salary. And you tell me what to do, and I'll do it. And
there's a sense in the corporate world in which that happens, that the whole machine is going the wrong way and slowly declining, and everybody is helpless to make the changes that need to be made.
I'm working in the healthcare system quite a bit now, and what you find in the healthcare system is that many of the people, especially lower middle management, are self-selected for safety. I mean, the reason you went to work for a healthcare organization, besides the wonderful moral things about helping people, was that you got a very good dental plan. You got a very good medical plan. You got all the benefits.
And it looked like you were in an industry that would be around forever.
Exactly, yes. And now you see the organizations are finding that they can't keep the old promises. They cannot they cannot say, you keep your nose clean and we will look after you. You know, you do your work and we will take care of everything. Move to Cincinnati, move to here. Now they're saying, we can only have you on a kind of creatively engaged way. Well, often it's the individuals themselves who get scared. The corporation is wanting real change, and the individuals say, no, what are you doing? This isn't the promise you made to my father and my mother. And it's not the promise you made to me 5 years ago when I joined up.
Well, it's as if the terror of all of that is awakening our soulfulness.
Yes.
David Whyte, we're out of time now, but it's been a pleasure discussing the urgencies of the soul in the world of business. Thanks so much for being with me.
I think we took a step there. Good.
And thank you for being with us. And for those of you who have enjoyed this discussion, please check your listings for part 2 of our series on the urgencies of the soul in the world of business.